Welcome to Pep Talks with Jeanne. I'm your host, Jeanne Pepper. I started doing Pep Talks as a way to inspire you to do intentional acts of kindness and to further the goals of #BlazeItForward. Since its inception, Pep Talks has evolved, and now I use it to interview people actively making a difference in this world through their volunteerism, community service, or careers. My guests are all here because they have dedicated their lives to making this world a better place. Join us as we delve into the hopes, dreams, and aspirations of these truly inspiring and hardworking people. This season, we will be using a panel format in some of our episodes to bring together synergistic guests to discuss topics that weave the social fabric of the world around us. Welcome to another episode of Pep Talks with Jeanne. I'm so excited to have Tahera with me today, Tahera Christy, who has quite a dossier, as you can see. Tahera, who was born and raised in Oakland, California, is an accomplished entrepreneur, author, singer, songwriter, actress, model, comedian, and MC. Look at this face. Of course she is. And she's also a writer. She wrote, most recently, How to Deal with Yo Baby Daddy.
That's right.
Wow. Okay. A Safe Space for Us, Healing Journal for Women of Color. Manifest That SH exclamation point T.
That's right.
Yeah. And Unleashing Your Potential. So Tahera has quite a resume here, and we're going to find out how she got to be such a prolific writer of such timely books, because I think a lot of people need this book right now. And we're going to learn what makes her tick. And, you know, I generally only have people on my show that are making this world a better place. Like, that's my thing. And the minute I met Tahera at the Blaze It Forward event that we did on Monday, which was a day of giving back, and it was MLK Day. And clearly you could have been anywhere on MLK Day. Mm-hmm. But you chose my event, and it was an event where we were cleaning up Borrego Park. Do you live near there?
I do. I actually used to live in Lake Forest. I live in Mission Viejo now, and we've been there for 8 years now. And I love the South Orange County community. I've been here over 22 years now. So it very much was a great, beautiful, wonderful day full of love and giving back. And that is my mantra. I also, on my list of things that I do, philanthropist is definitely one of them. And so when John reached out to me and said, "Will you come?" I said, yes. There was not a hesitation. And I'm so glad that I was able to be a part of that.
Now, how did you meet John?
Gosh, John is amazing, first of all. He's one of my customers. So I have a company called Amour Propre, which means self-love in French. Yeah. And during the pandemic, I was selling my products online kind of anonymously. Nobody knew it was me that was selling the products. My friends would be like, "Is this like Avon?" I'm like, "No, it's me." They're like, "What do you mean it's you? It's so professional." I'm like, "I'm professional." They had no idea that I gotten into creating luxury handmade hygiene products. And so John became one of my customers because I ended up on a list of Black-owned businesses in Orange County. And he started buying my products, and he fell in love with them, and he just kept buying them. And I was like, "Who's this guy, John?" And we sort of connected on social media, and he was just such a light. And I was like, oh, when I meet people that are awesome and they emote just love and kindness, I'm like, "You're my friend."
Oh yeah, he's a good one, isn't he?
He's really amazing. And then he asked me to donate to his organization, and I was like, yes. And I've been involved with donating to his organization over the years. And
now, which one? Because he's involved in quite a few.
Radiant.
Yes.
And I believe in the mission there. It aligns with my mission in providing clean beauty for all and treating yourself kindly. Those are the most important things. And living in love is another slogan that we have. And John just kind of embodied that. So I was like, we're going to be friends.
Oh, that's so cool. Yeah, I'm actually the head of the gala committee this year. I don't know if you're planning to attend.
I will be there.
March 29th.
I will be there.
Yeah, March 29th. So we're going to be dressing as superheroes for that event.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So I hope you will be too.
I will be too.
Oh, super. Yeah. So Tahera has a really interesting story. So I'd love to hear about your story. I think everybody else wants to hear about it too. Like, how do you go from being a mother of 3? 4. Now you're 4, but we'll start with the earlier days before the 4th. Mother 3, you're from Oakland, so you end up in Southern California. You end up becoming a writer of books, obviously a life coach from what I'm seeing from these books. You create healthcare products, and you're a philanthropist you're also an entertainer. How did that all come to be?
Excuse me. Life has a funny way of working everything out. And I feel like my upbringing and my childhood were very difficult. I felt isolated a lot of the times. I was very talented, which means I was loud. I was opinionated. I had a strong voice. I'm a singer. So I was just a lot of energy for the people that raised me. And I feel like it was one of those situations where I didn't really have very many outlets that were appropriate at the time. And my family kind of just threw me into things that would keep me occupied because I was a lot as a kid. First of all, I'm a Gemini. Just read into that how you want, as most people do.
You're an astrologist.
Right?
That's how I read into
I
it.
was super multifaceted.
Okay.
And people couldn't ping me. They couldn't narrow me into one career or one educational source or one mode of operation. And the issues that I experienced in my childhood, I write in my book, one of the first lines in my book is I was molested from the time I was 3 until I was 13 when I finally started having sex.
Oh my
and
God.
That's a lot to unload in itself, but I say it so fluidly because it is a part of my story. And it's the reason why I eventually ended up having a baby daddy and why I am so encouraging now of people walking in their truth and living out their story, knowing that it can be a stumbling block, but it can also be a stepping stone. So for me, it was a matter of gaining perspective. So as a kid, I wrote. My very first journal was when I was 9 years old because nobody would talk to me. First of all, I had secrets. So I couldn't tell anybody what was happening because I'm a good Christian girl. I go to church every week. I go to Sunday school. I read the Bible. And I had this duality to me, not only in my personality, but in my lifestyle, in that I'm been told all these great Christian values growing up. However, the dark side of my childhood was never to be surfaced. It wasn't something I could talk about, or I didn't have therapy. I had parents who didn't love each other and had a very tumultuous relationship, and I had to grow up in the silence of that. I went to a Catholic school. Who was I going to talk to there? So I feel like my identity was created as a result of lack and not knowing who I could go to. So I wrote. I wrote for hours every day. I wrote the good, the bad, the indifferent, even if it was, I had a lollipop today, or this boy did this to me.
Wow.
And no one knew these secrets of mine. And all throughout my teenagehood, I'd write things down. Through my young adulthood, I'd write things down. And then when I had my first child and I was a single mom alone and by myself, trying to figure out how to navigate these waters in college, 20 years old, trying to figure out how to graduate in 4 years, raise a 6-month-old at the time, and figure out a career for myself while dealing with an abusive partner in crime, essentially, and raising my son, I didn't know what I didn't know. I feel like I just grew up so naive and unaware that evil of that level could really truly exist. I was used to the evil of being touched, but I wasn't used to the evil of being assaulted and also belittled. I'd never experienced emotional abuse to that degree. And it taught me a lot, and all I could do was write about it. All I could do is pour out my feelings into a piece of paper that didn't judge me and allowed me to express it all.
Yeah.
So I figured it out, and it was defining. You never know why life brings you the hurdles that it brings you until you meet the first person that you're able to help, because you went through that situation. So when I became a life coach at like 29, 30 years old, super young, green, unaware of that impact, I realized that I had so much to give. And because I was still working out my own issues, I didn't realize the impact it would have in my life later. But I knew I had something. So I started writing How to Deal with Your Baby Daddy. And it really is a book about how to deal with me. Why? How did you become that girl? How did you shift from just striving to get through, striving to make sense of your life, and why life chose you to go down these paths when at the time that I was writing it, I had moved down to Orange County and become a part of this lifestyle. I went to a very predominant church here in Orange County. I met all kinds of amazing characters and people of all socioeconomic backgrounds.
Now, did you move down here when your kids were little?
No, I moved down here for college. So I came to Cal State Long Beach. I transferred from Cal State Monterey Bay. So I kind of slowly matriculated myself down from Northern California through education. And then I met my kid's father at Cal State Long Beach when I was in college. It was my first semester there.
You were like 18?
I was 20
20
by
years
that
old.
time. But I had just gotten through a major car accident. So when I was at Cal State Monterey Bay, I almost died in a car accident.
Oh my gosh.
And I was in the hospital for 5 days. And then during that time, my parents had just gotten a divorce and they were getting back together. And my dad lived down here, and suddenly I needed to move down here. And then my mom was going through divorce, so my parents got back together. So it was a weird, like, a bunch of instances that kind of brought us all together, because my family followed me down here because they would have just stayed in the Bay Area otherwise. And then when they got back together for the brief time that they did, we all kind of lived together. And I was like, I got to get out of here because this is weird. There's a reason my parents got divorced the first time. And then getting back together was just circumstantial. So,
And this is the same, this is the bio father that was molesting you, or was that someone else?
No. It wasn't my father. It was a slew of other people in my life, and mostly like kids and people from my school. Again, I went to a Catholic school. They just believed because you were surrounded by godliness that everybody was just going to behave godly, and that just is not the case.
So these were other students?
Other students, grown men, other
Grown
people in
men?
the community, absolutely.
Like teachers at your school?
Not teachers at my school. It was just a slew of random people in my life, whether
Wow.
it be, again, kids in my class or older boys. There was daycare, away camp. It didn't matter. Later in my life, I will explain. I did see a medium who I talked to about this, and she did Reiki. When I was introduced to Reiki, I was like, this is a whole nother level of awakening for me. And she said to me one of the most hurtful and profound things I had heard in my life, which was, your energy is magnificent. You don't need crystals. You are a crystal. And as a result, people are naturally attracted to you. And unfortunately, some people sexualize that attraction. And so now that I know that, I have been empowered to understand not only my power, but also what I can do to shield myself from the harm of other people's pain that they want to funnel through me, like you would a crystal, like you would a quartz to cleanse. Mm-hmm. And understand that it's not your job to heal everyone who comes to you seeking that healing, but to offer a safe space if you're able, and release. So I've learned how to filter my purpose, which is why I'm a life coach, which is why I'm a business coach, which is why I've written so many books. I know my purpose here on earth. My soul, when I die, my soul will go into the heavenly spaces and stay there. It doesn't have to reincarnate because I've healed the grievances of my previous souls. That's what I believe. And as a result, excuse me, as a result of that healing, I know now how to heal souls from their grievances. It's deep and I can go there, but know that I've reconciled the spirits, the souls, the people who have harmed me from my past, because I understand why they did what they did. And it has nothing to do with I did something wrong. I don't take blame for that. I release and thank God for the experiences that I've had, because it's created a person that I am very proud to be.
Mm-hmm. Do your parents know about what happened?
They do. My mom passed away 2 years ago from ovarian cancer. And I want to say about 8 years before she passed away, I revisited the conversation about what happened to me. I told her when I was 17 years old what happened to me, and being a person with her own issues of her past, she did not know how to help me heal through that. And I feel like with most grief, and I do a lot of grief counseling as well, by the way. I feel like with most grief, people don't know how to reconcile themselves. So they don't know how to be there for someone when they're grieving something, whether it's a loss of someone, a divorce. In my case, my childhood, I had to grieve my childhood and it not being like everyone else's. And so my mom didn't know how to respond to my issue. And she was like, well, I didn't know That was her response. I'm like, okay, well, you didn't know. Now I'm telling you, and I need help.
Did you show her how to deal with baby daddy?
The hard part about mother-daughter relationships is oftentimes there's not an eye to eye, right?
Yeah.
And so I feel like as a mother of 3 daughters, what my mom wasn't able to do for me, I was able to do for my daughters because I know what I needed. So when their grievances come up, my job is just to hold space. It is not to fix everything, but to hold space so that they know they have someone there for them as long as I shall live. My mom wasn't able to get there. And, the unfortunate part about her passing so early, I feel like she knew that she wasn't able to fulfill the promises of her soul. I think that soul is due to recycle, to learn the grievances of this experience she had.
Yeah, that's not a very Catholic point of view, though.
Not at all.
So are you not practicing anymore?
I'm not Catholic. I went to Catholic school. I'm definitely a Christian, but I am more spiritually inclined than anything else. I understand that I am a spirit having a human experience. And when I was introduced to Reiki, that opened up my eyes to many different options of healing and spirituality that are out there. Like I took several religious studies classes when I was in college. I talked to Jehovah's Witnesses and people of the Mormon faith, and I'm open to the questions and the answers that other people's doctrines have allowed them to conclude that this is for them, this is right for them. And the reality is, I feel like there's space for all of it. I feel like whatever helps you to see this life as something good and pure, that you're able to find your kindness, find love, find purpose, then run with that. If it doesn't harm anyone else and it gives you good fruit to support others with, it must be good. If it does not, if it's filled with hate, if it's filled with harm, if it doesn't help you or anyone around you, you got to release that. And that's my goal, is to find an energy source that allows me to be the best version of myself. And for me, God is that. For me, the example of Jesus Christ is that. For me, holding on to nature and being one with that energetically is important. And there's room for all of it.
Yeah. What philanthropy are you doing these days?
Oh, all kinds. With the fires in Los Angeles, yeah. I've been very involved in raising money for the city of Altadena specifically.
Okay.
I had a cafe that allowed me to bring my products to their cafe. Very, very beautiful space in Altadena. It's called Cafe de Leche. And many of the people who patron that space, it's a neighborhood cafe. I'm still friends with all of these people, and their space burnt down. And so I'm trying to raise money to help them to rebuild their location. I have friends. I'm obviously, being an actor, I have a lot of friends in the Valley, a lot of friends in greater Los Angeles who have lost their homes. So I've been working with people to help raise money there. I also have a small nonprofit called Encore Presentation. And the goal of that is to try different. Don't try harder at something that doesn't work. And so I go into halfway houses and rehabs and homeless shelters, and I give my books away, and I motivate and inspire the women to change their lives through encouragement, through validation, through helping them be seen. So I was just there last Tuesday, and I also give them my products and just want them to know that someone cares.
Wow.
And when you're homeless and pregnant, no one cares. They just think, well, why didn't you have an abortion? Well, why did you get pregnant in the first place? Why are you bringing a kid into this situation? Well, I know what that's like to be a single mom without anyone seeing me or anyone helping me to get to that next space. So that's my focus, and I love doing it. I've been doing it for 9 years.
Oh, wow. Was this just you, or do you have volunteers that help work with you?
I have volunteers who come from time to time, but for me, whether you come or not, I'm going to go and I'm going to do it. And so it's been a great love of mine to just support Orange County community the best way I can. And that's been one of the ways for me to easily give back, because I love self-help.
Yeah. So why leave LA and an acting career there? Why come here?
Well, I haven't left. I'm still very much involved in doing commercials and wherever I can find gigs that allow me to express myself creatively.
Right.
But I don't want to live in LA because there's just too much going on. I love Orange County.
Yeah.
Coming from Oakland, literally hearing the BART train above my head, waking me up every morning at 5:15 and, hopping on the bus to go 2 and 3 buses and 2 and 3 hours to get to school every day. I've lived the city life. I'm good. I'm over it. Yeah. I love my quiet Orange County nestle that I hear birds when I wake up in the morning.
Your daughter's still under the same roof with you?
I have 2 and 2. So my son lives in Denver. One of my daughters, she has a roommate in here in Irvine, and one of my daughters goes to Saddleback College in Mission Viejo, and so she still lives with me, and my 10-year-old obviously lives with us as well.
Okay, so the 10-year-old is with your current husband?
Yes.
Okay, so are the 3 younger children, are they with the same baby daddy?
So the 3 oldest are with my kid's father, and they're grown. So I've got a 23-year-old son. My twin girls are 20, and I have a 10-year-old girl. And so they're a handful, but I am so grateful to have 3 grown ones. And my 10-year-old is just, she's got like 5 parents, because between her siblings and my husband and I, she's our baby. She doesn't want to be our baby, but she's our baby for life.
Well, you don't really want a baby for life, because there are people that have that too. But tell me about your romance with your husband. It sounded like really interesting.
Yeah.
You met him when you were in high school.
We did. He is a very bold young man. I'll tell you that.
Like Star Trek bold?
He has a lot of built-in confidence. Okay. He has confidence that I would like to tap into as often as possible, because, born and raised in Oakland. We're both from Oakland. My husband is the blondest, blue-eyedest white guy you'd ever meet. And, when I met him, when I got introduced to him this second time around, he was vegan. He was a truck driver. He listened to rock and roll, and I could not be more opposite. So I'm like, I cook gumbo, and I'm a great chef. I eat really great food. I mostly listen to R&B and gospel music, and I was a big girl.
You were very different people.
We are opposites in every way. But one thing that we have in common is our love and respect for each other, our love of music, like just different types in creating.
Because he's a musician.
He's a musician. Yeah. He's very creative, and just general respect. And so my husband and I met in high school. I was 15, he was 16. And quick story, we were walking down the hill from getting off the bus from the hill that our school was on. And I'm just walking to the next bus stop, and he grabs my hand and says, "You look like you need some help." I was like, "What kind of help do you think I need, sir? I'm 15. I don't even know what to do. I'm just like walking with this random white guy down a hill." Yeah. Granted, we went to a mostly black high school, and he's like one of like maybe 40 white kids at our high school. And he just saw me. Apparently, he said later, we were doing a play together. So he was in the orchestra, and the actors were meeting the band because we were about to do a school musical. And he's like, "I saw your eyes from across the room, and I knew I needed to have you." I was like, weird.
Oh, that's so funny. What a line.
Right?
That's got some good strategy there.
The courageousness at 16 years old. And so I was like, no, sorry, no. I think one day, I want to say like maybe a month later, he's like, "Yeah, I want to be with you." And I was like, "No." So he's like, "I want to bring you something." So he came to my house with McDonald's. Granted, every 15-year-old, that's how you get to your
he knew the strategies
literally
to get to you.
And then my dad was like, "Yeah, you can't date a white kid." No.
Oh my God.
So he shut it off.
How do you feel? Let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Can you unpack that? Okay. So your father said that to you.
Yeah.
How did you feel about that?
First of all, I told him what he said, and I shut it down. And I didn't feel any type of way about it, because remember, I'm from Oakland. My dad's from Chattanooga, Tennessee. He's from the South. My dad was a Black Panther. My family was, literally, so we were very militantly Black focused. And our, even just growing up in Oakland, going to the different museums, like dealing with, my dad dealt with Jim Crow. My dad was born in 1946. So he dealt with Jim Crow. He drank from colored only fountains. Like, he knew the history behind that.
That's fascinating.
And he knew the history behind the loving family who, white male Black female. They were in love, but it was illegal for them to even be together. He saw that. My mom, born in 1950, like they experienced that level of racism, and they were like, why would you go there? And even when I attempted to talk to my husband at the time at 15 and 16 years old about white privilege, that was a buzzword that wasn't really used very often in 1996. He was like, doesn't exist. No, what are you talking about? I was like, but it does exist and you need to understand it. And I was trying to drill the point home, and it just created this distance between us. So I think eventually I just dropped it, because after wearing me down for about 8 months, I finally went on one date with him against my father's wishes, and we had the best time. And even his parents were like, they were granola hippies from Santa Rosa who moved to Oakland to give their kids an opportunity to like experience real life and just the intertwining of multiculturalism. And they were like, are you sure? Like, are you sure? Their parents were racists, so they knew they didn't want that for their kid. So when he met me, it was kind of like, I want to rebel. This feels great to just try. And it ended up, both of us were kind of in this rebellious space, but it worked out.
So this is interesting to me because when I was in high school, I had the same thing happen to me, the reverse of you. Yeah. I was asked to go to prom by one of the most popular boys in school. And I was a sophomore at the time. He was a senior. He was a football player. He was our ASB president, and he was African American. And when I went home and I asked my mom if it was okay if I went to prom with him. It wasn't my prom, it was his prom. And she said, no, Jeannie, you can't go to a prom with a black boy. I'm like, why? Like, I just didn't understand it. And she said, because you're white. I'm like, so what? And she said, it's just not done. And I'm like, okay, is that a no? Right. And she's like, that's a no. So I told one of my friends at school, and she completely understood. And I was like, really? I'm like, people actually agree with this? Like, somebody my age agrees with this? Like, I couldn't believe it. And this was in 1985. It didn't change the way, I still thought it was ridiculous, but, I just didn't understand it at all. But the same thing happened to you too. Yeah.
The social norms, cultural norms of the time it just didn't happen. So when you were a rarity to have it happen, I mean, imagine us walking the streets of Oakland, and he's a touchy person. So he always, to this day, still holds my hand wherever we go. He is so proud of being with me. And black guys specifically would stop us on the street and be like, take your hand off of her. Don't touch her. Like, why are you with her? What are you doing? Wow. We got harassed in the street as teenagers. So
that was in the 90s?
Oh yeah, all the time. But he was so confident in his choice to be with me. And he didn't care what anybody thought. Remember, I lived in the hood. He would come from his side of town. Because remember, the school that we went to was his home school. I bused 2 hours to get to that school. Oh, wow. So he would come take the bus 2 hours to where I lived through Sobrani Park, which was gang-riddled, drug infested. The only white guy for miles around, and he didn't care. He was like, I'm going to go see my girl, which was very bold and very stupid and crazy at the time, if you think about it.
So why did you let him go?
I was a kid. I didn't think about it that way at the time, but the reality was I appreciated him courting me. He was the first guy to court me. Remember, I was the child of molestation. So everyone who ever saw me in eyes that were any way other than a child were there to take from me, to take advantage of me, to hurt me. He was the first guy that ever approached me with curiosity and love and patience. And he, to this day, like, he asks me, are you ready to... Can we? He never crosses any line to this. And I'm his wife. I'm a Proverbs 31 woman. I'm yours. You can have whatever you want from me. But no, he gives me so much love, so much respect. And I had never been treated like that by anyone to that capacity. Hence why when he asked me to marry him, there was no other answer other than yes. And we've been married almost 13 years. It'll be 13 years in June now.
So your first, the baby daddy of the first three, did you marry that man?
No. Oh God. No.
You just kept having babies with him.
I was so broken. I was with him on and off from 20 to about 24. And he was, my book explains, he was me working out the Swiss cheese of holes that were my life at the time, that were in my emotional existence. Like if you were a solid individual, if you were a rock and you were just a solid rock, you could build your foundation off of that right from the beginning. I was a bunch of broken pebbles all over the place with no matching pieces anywhere. And then the situation with him was kind of like my pebbles were just blown in the wind and tossed about, and to never seemingly ever be put back together. And through journaling, through joining organizations, I joined an organization called Black Infant Health out of Long Beach. I was living in Long Beach at the time because I just graduated from college. And I would go to these sessions, and we'd have like therapy sessions with other single moms, other Black women who were going through the exact same thing I was going through. Now, granted, I was in college at the time. I was toting my baby to these program meetings with a 6-month-old, but I'd meet women with 4 kids who were 25, and they were like, you're a single mom, but so what? So are we. So is half the women in the world struggling to raise their children. Get over your situation and find a way out, find a way through. These women empowered me. They loved me. They saw me. I was not just a statistic, even though that's the way I felt. And thank God I was in college. I did have an education. Conceptually, I understood something was wrong. I just didn't know emotionally how to get through it. I finally got my first counseling session in college. I met with a therapist for the first time in my life. I started to unpack. I was in a theater troupe that I was able to unpack all of my childhood. And suddenly I started to get a voice, and those pebbles started to get put into a container. And then I started to pour shellac on them to build a foundation off of. So while my rock is not solid, it has been pieced together and it has been glued together. And now I've been able to build from that foundation that wasn't solid, but is really amazingly solid now because I was so broken. Mm-hmm. Once I started to see myself as worthy, as whole, I finally said to that man at 27, after our last meandering together.
Was he helping you with the kids?
Not at all.
Not older than you?
But by 6 years. Yeah. So I was 20.
Was he supporting you financially?
On and off, but not. He still owes me like $60,000. Like not.
Wow.
I will say not at all, because he had mental health issues of his own that he never addressed while we were raising these children, we'll call it, together. Yeah. And even to this day, I pray for him. I pray for his soul. I pray for his healing, because I know he hasn't gone through the metamorphosis that I have. But I remember telling him when I was like 22, or he'd be cussing me out for something, I'd be like, one day I'm going to be something. When I'm 30, I'm going to be so great. Like, you're going to be still stupid. Like I wasn't very good at telling people off at that time. I was like, you're still going to be stupid and I'm going to be awesome. And he would call me, he's like, all right, Sigmund Freud. I'm like, do you understand that's a compliment? Like, I'm a rhetorical studies major. Like, I really pride myself in being smart. I was going to be a lawyer. I got my degree in rhetorical studies. So I loved arguing. So I was really good at arguing intelligently. I just wasn't very good at being mean. This just wasn't in my spirit. It wasn't in my persona. And so, needless to say, once I, at 27, got the courage to say to him, because we were like on for a little bit, I was like, you don't treat me very well. And you're a narcissist. And one day somebody's going to come into my life and they're going to treat me well, and I'm going to be done with you. Mm. And once I said that, my husband, I want to say, came into my life. No, I was 30, because he came into my life, I want to say 6 months later.
Wow.
And it wasn't like he was like, hey, could I get with you? It was just kind of like I hadn't heard from him in 8-9 years.
Not a word, huh?
Not a word. And he was like, hey, old friend. And I was like, oh my God, out of the blue. He just called me out of the blue. And I was shocked to hear from him. But the timing, I spoke those words out of my mouth, and then I started to realize how much power there was in my tongue. Hence all the manifestation books, hence all the mindset training books, because I had to speak my way and write my way into this existence I have today. Mm-hmm. I could not have imagined at 24 what I have at 44, mm-hmm. how whole and complete, and how much I have to give, and how much my cup runneth over, because I chose to just persevere and keep going and start anew. I mean, the people are like, you have so many businesses. I'm like, that's because if God downloads into me, I don't just sleep through the download. I write it down and then I make it happen because that's just who I am as a person.
Are you a grandparent yet?
Oh God, no.
No. So your daughters know not to do this.
They are, first of all, if I'm a nerd, they are nerdier than me because they're born and raised in Orange County. These are Orange County kids. So they just have a different mindset.
Yeah.
And even though they have the connection with their dad somewhat, they're pretty elusive with him. And they've gone through their own metamorphosis and healing through all their own personal grievances, but they have really focused their lives on being whole. I feel that every parent has a theme of their parenting. They have a parenting style. Some are gentle parents, some are disciplinarian, some parents value education, some parents are like all about the money. My mom's theme was education. She never finished college. She went to college, but she never finished. And she tried to get an AA, just never happened. But she was smart.
Yeah.
I have an uncle, my mom's oldest brother, was being recruited by NASA. He had like a 5.0 GPA. Super smart. My grandfather, super smart. Just intelligence runs through my family, but opportunity didn't. So I was the first person in my family to graduate from college. So it was a big deal because I'm the youngest. I had a sister who's 2 years older than me and took her 10 years to graduate with her degree, but she got it. So my mom, check. Like as a parent, she did her job because education was so important.
That's what she wanted for you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So with me, my theme has always been self-esteem. Because I know what it's like to grow up feeling unworthy. And I wanted my kids to be confident. I wanted them to feel that no matter what you go through, you are God's child. You are perfect for your purpose. You have a will for your life. And to feel good about the good, the bad, the indifferent, whatever it is, keep going. And so my kids are fabulous. They're quite amazing. My son's a rapper and he's a philosopher. He's so deep. He's like one of the deepest people, and he's such a a nerd. Like he loves Japanese anime. So being a Black kid into that is kind of just weird in itself, but he loves deep concepts and we have really philosophical conversations about many things. My oldest twin, she works with autistic kids. So she goes in home and she's a behavioral therapist.
Oh, wow.
And she went to military school. So she's very structured and she's just very loving, but very, very disciplined and loves working with children. Her twin, the youngest twin, she works with the elderly. So she's actually a home care provider. She on Christmas, for example, we have big celebrations for Christmas and Thanksgiving in our family, but she was like, one of my clients doesn't have anybody to spend Christmas with. So she spent Christmas with this older woman, just knitting with her and crocheting. She's such a nerd. She plays instruments. But I love it because they love to give back. But I was in the choir at church for 17 years. So they're church kids. They grew up with philanthropy in their hearts and service in their hearts. And then my youngest daughter, she actually owns her own business as well. And she loves, helping other kids. And they've just got these dynamic personalities that are all about dusting themselves off, picking themselves up and doing something different. And I tell them all the time, leadership is very lonely. And all of my kids are leaders. And so they're bossy. So I've had to deal with that my whole life. They're like, just, giving them space to learn their leadership capabilities, but also teaching them great followership because great leaders listen to wise counsel and teaching them those concepts. Like, why would I want to just help myself? I want my kids to learn how to self-soothe and self-help as well. I think having twins was also just a big theme for me because they're built-in best friends.
They were born when you were in your early 20s?
I was 24.
How did you do that?
How? Girl, please tell me.
Did you have a man helping you?
No. So
did your parents help you?
My mom helped me the first year because I wouldn't have eaten or slept at all.
I know, because you still had like a 3-year-old.
Yeah,
at that
a
point
3-year-old and 2 babies, 2 infants. And my kid's father married another woman when I was 6 months pregnant with my twins. So he played a lot of games with me, and
that's ugly.
It was really bad.
He could have waited. That's just
there was no need. I think it was, you come across people in your lifetime, and granted, one of the smartest men I've ever met in my life. He has a master's degree in nursing and should have been a doctor if it weren't for his issues in life, but I understand his dynamics, right? And his father had 27 children. His mother was an alcoholic.
Wait a minute. Your children have 27 aunts and uncles?
Technically, yeah. On his side, yeah. And so he never had stability, right? And so I think that because of his issues, but he also persevered, right? So he was the first to graduate from college in his family. And I saw his potential, and being from a broken space myself, I was like, well, I'm broken too. We can love each other through it. But I was the only one giving the love. Being an empath and him being a narcissist, he was always going to cipher my energy.
Yeah.
And I talked about that in the beginning of just being this person who emanates love constantly. And you're like, if you're lacking love, you're like, oh, I want that, but you have no love to give. You're going to just keep taking. And I'm like, I'll just wait. He'll get it. He'll get it eventually. He never got it. It was my naivety, of course, at the time. So I understood that part of it. But I think growing up and being a single mom, knowing that I was going to raise 3 kids by myself, which is insane.
Did you feel like life was over?
Absolutely.
I know. Like, that seems like so daunting. Like, I'm not, like, I would just feel like, oh my God, I have this huge responsibility. I've got to make money to support these kids. Yeah. And how am I going to find a man that wants to deal with this? I'm going to be alone. That's all of the above. That's frightening.
All of the above.
Yeah.
But I also, my dynamic was I learned how to be a mom before I learned how to be a wife. So all I knew was taking care of my kids. It gave me purpose. I kind of reversed it because that same program that I was in with my son, I went back with my daughters, and I was in corporate America. If I wasn't going to be a lawyer like I wanted to be, because I kept having all these kids and I couldn't go to law school, I went into sales. And so I was able to make as much money as I knew how to sell. So at 24 years old, I bought my first house because I made enough money to do that. Wow. And so I was always a go-getter, and I found ways to support myself and my kids, whether my kid's father was going to be involved in my life or not. Now, when things happen, like I lost a job, or I got sick or had other issues, it created dynamics that made it very difficult for us, because I knew what it's like to make $100,000 a year and then be on welfare, because at 24 years old, how do you manage your money? Who's teaching you? Who had the generational wealth to teach me how to tie into a 401k and don't take it out, and invest in stocks and not mess with them? I didn't know what I didn't know. I was the guinea pig. I was the first in my family to do everything. So I had to teach myself financial literacy. I had to teach myself how to save. I had to teach myself how to be a good mom and find a way to be a good partner. So my husband's father, when we first announced our engagement, he was like, you're going to have to unlearn being a single mom. And I was highly offended at that statement. I was like, what do you mean? I'm going to be a great wife. But I know exactly what he meant now. I was so used to taking control and being the alpha. And my pastor, during our initial marriage counseling, he was like, the white male and the black female are the heads of each household dynamically in our cultures. How are you going to navigate through that? And that was a great question for us to ponder together. The one thing I love the most about our relationship, outside of the love and respect, is we know how to toggle responsibility and leadership. When I say my husband is the man, girl, he is the man. And I make sure he feels that way every single moment of the day. And when I am really good at something that can help our family, he is so happy to push me in the front and let me take lead. I'm an actor, for God's sake. I'm on TV all the time. I'm in the spotlight and people are like, Tahera! And he's not like, well, what about me? Oh, no. He lets me shine. A lot of women in situations like mine, they have a difficult time having a partner that's okay with I have girlfriends of mine who they should be making more money than their spouses, but their husband won't let them because it takes away from his machismo. I'm like, where's your self-esteem, sir? But it really all starts there with your self-worth, your self-love. And most of us grew up in households that didn't nurture that. Most of us grew up in households with parents who vicariously lived through us, or who subtly abused us and didn't know that that's what it was. Right. So learning that dynamic, and my husband coming into a situation where he was like, not only do I want to marry you as a black woman, I'm going to take on your 3 black kids too, and your baby daddy. Wow. That's crazy. Yeah. And I told him, I was like, are you sure? Because I think that's it's a lot, but are you willing? He married me when my daughters were 6 and my son was 10 years old. Very formidable times for them as in their growing period, and for us to learn how to be married and us to learn how to be a blended biracial growing family in Orange County. Wow. It was a lot.
That's a lot.
but it taught us so much about ourselves and how we wanted to show up, not only for ourselves, for our children, and for our community.
So he came from Northern California just to be with you?
No, he was actually living in LA. So the dynamics of my husband, just to give you a little bit of background, he's celebrating 20 years of sobriety next month.
Okay.
And we're so proud of him for that. We're throwing a little party and everything and to celebrate him. But he got in trouble. When I went to college, one of the things that our relationship got difficult, when I was 17 years old, we had been together for a year. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm in love with you. I want to marry you and have your kids. And he was like, okay. The next day he broke up with me and I never knew why. He never told me why. I never knew why. And for the next year, I tried to get back with him. He was like, no. I went off to college at 18, tried to get back with him for a year. And he was like, no. And I was like, okay, I'm done with this and I'm done with you and I can't deal with you. No. And then he ended up turning into a bad boy. So he was supposed to go to Berkeley School of Music because he's this great musician.
Oh, wow.
I went to Cal State, Monterey Bay.
Boston. Okay.
Had a scholarship and everything. But he was like, how are my parents going to pay for the rest of it? And declined to go. He was like, I'll make it. I'll be a producer here in Oakland. I got connections. Those connections led to him discovering weed, drinking alcohol, just being a bad boy. And I was like, I'm going to college. I don't have time for you to be bad boy around me because I was very much, again, a good Christian girl at that point. I wasn't going to do, I was so narrow when it came to how I lived. And he was such a bad boy. So I separated myself from him and we interacted here and there like like a friend. But I just like, I can't do this anymore with you because I just loved him so much and I really tried. And when he was 26, he ended up going to jail and had some issues, some crime that he committed. And I called his mom, I was really close with his mom. I called his mom and I was like, yo, where's Ben? What's going on with Ben? She's like, he's in rehab. And I was like, rehab? What? And I couldn't talk to him. And he was there for 6 years. And I had no idea what was going on with him. But every year for 3 years, I called, hey, is he out yet? No. Hey, is he out yet? No.
And I thought he was in rehab.
He was in rehab. Yeah. And then after the third year, I was like, okay, he's far gone. Like, God bless him. I don't know what's the deal with him.
Here.
And let me date myself. So I saw a picture of him on MySpace, passed out on the floor. And I was like, one of my girlfriends that we all went to college, or all went to high school together. She was like, Ben's far gone. Just forget about him, T. And I did. So I went on, had my kids at 20. No, it was 31. So by 31, that's when he called me out of the blue. He was out of rehab and he finally told me the story and we connected. I was like, hey, this was April. By June, I was like, I'm having a birthday party. You should come. A lot of people came. He was one of them. And he ended up connecting with a friend of mine there and he went to her birthday party and we were in Laguna Beach. And so we ended up on the beach and I was like, hey, why did you break up with me when we were 17? Granted, we were 31 by that time. He's like, you scared the hell out of me. You're talking about marriage and kids. I was 17. I didn't know, where I was going to get my next hit of weed. I was like, what? I was like, that's it. You could have just said that to me. So that was June 23rd of 2011. 2011. And then June 23rd of 2012, we were married, which was crazy because that's why we picked that date because it was the first day of understanding between us and forgiveness. And so just as much as he took on my 3 kids and my crazy life, I took on a man who was in jail and who was in rehab, who didn't have a degree and he didn't fit any of the glossed over items that I thought I wanted in a man. But little did I know, a year before I had written down everything I wanted in a man: honesty, integrity, accountability, kindness, love, empathy. The only thing I didn't write down was a black guy.
You got everything but that.
Right? And so God was like, here's everything you need in the perfect guy for you. Mm-hmm. And I tried very hard to push him off on friends of mine. I was like, I'm not interested in going backwards. Are you kidding me? This is not the guy for me. And then God came and he said, your husband's in your life. That was one of 3 times God has ever spoken to me directly. Because he already knew if I didn't just say it, you weren't going to listen. And
Wait. Yeah. God is talking to you?
He talks to me from time to time.
So God is male?
In my mind, God is my father. And every girl wants that dominance and that love and protection. So for me, yes, he comes in a male form. Mm-hmm. And when God spoke to me and said, with authority, your husband's in your life. He didn't say who, he just said in your life. And I heard it as clear as you and I are talking. Wow. And I was driving And literally the next phone call I got was him.
That's weird.
It was so freaky, girl.
Wow.
I was like, what?
Wow.
And it was funny because my first thoughts were, my baby daddy's in my life. I don't want him. My ex is in my life. I don't want him. And then I was like, and Ben, and he's white. No way. That was my thought. I have 3 black kids. What am I going to do with this white guy if he likes me? And what if he didn't have any kids? What if he needs to have a child with me? I was thinking logically. I was like, he's going to have a degree. I was judging.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, he's not even a Christian. I was judging. And so it was crazy when we first got together. People were like, he's not even Christian. What are you doing? I was like, well, my Bible tells me to go out and make disciples of all nations. And he could be a disciple. Girl, side note story. I have so many. But he ended up, he was atheist when we first got together. And that was really hard for me to reconcile. Kind of like the white privilege conversation that we had so many years previous.
Yeah.
And he was like, I just don't believe. Like, you're just going to have to accept that. And I was like, but he does everything else really well.
Yeah.
I was like, God, this is the man you said was supposed to be my husband. So what am I going to do? So he would show up to church every Sunday. Remember, I sang in the choir. Show up in his suit. My dad gave him some suits. He didn't have anything, right? Gave him some suits, and he would show up and stand there very proudly to be with me. And we ended up getting married. And I want to say the first 5 years, it was a battle of just, but can you get baptized? He was like, no, why would I do that? I don't believe in this. And I was like, it was just an issue we just didn't talk about.
Yeah.
Then fast forward to, gosh, my girls were 15 at the time. My husband and my daughter, my youngest twin, were in a car accident. My husband prides himself in being a very hard worker. He's a truck driver. He works really, really hard, lots of hours. He's just an amazing individual.
He's still doing
that. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And he hurt his back, slipped discs, couldn't work for 6 months. It was a horrible time period in our family because he hurt himself and then I hurt myself and there was no money coming into our household. I was like, what are we going to do?
Oh boy.
And during that time, he was just sad and he started journaling and trying to figure out his life. And I had met a woman who had done Reiki on me. And I was like, I think you need to see somebody and do some spiritual cleansing or something, because he wasn't going to go to church. So she worked with him and he fell in love with the practice of Reiki. For me, whatever works for you, whatever helps you to see that you're more than just flesh and bones.
Yeah.
And he, for the first time, acknowledged energy and spirituality. And it took that car accident, being literally stripped of your physicality, to believe there was something more than just that. Mm-hmm. And then he became a Reiki master and studied it. And that kind of opened him up. And then my mom died 2 years ago on Thanksgiving. His mom died 4 months after that.
Wow.
So we experienced the loss of the 2 most important women in our lives, literally 4 months apart. My mom of ovarian cancer, his mom of Alzheimer's and dementia.
Yeah.
Both 72 and 74. So young, so much life left to live. And then suddenly we're without moms, we're motherless kids, and we become the matriarch and patriarch of our family. Mm-hmm. That was a lot of responsibility thrust upon us. And we had our 10th wedding anniversary just before that. And my mom had gotten to the hospital. This was 6 months before she passed, but she got into the hospital and she was there for 10 days. And we were supposed to go on our 10th wedding anniversary trip. And during that trip, I wasn't able to give him as much attention as I would have liked to, because my mom's in the hospital. Well, she was going to watch the kids on our trip. Now she can't watch the kids. Now the kids are watching themselves. I'm calling constantly, making sure that they're not dead.
Right.
And he said something really mean and ruined our whole trip.
Aww.
And it was the first time I had ever felt unsure that we should continue in our relationship.
Oh, wow.
And that's 10 years into marriage. I'd never felt that before. And it took us a good 4 months after that for him and I to reconcile that situation. Mm-hmm. And he was like, I just need to grow up. And I was like, yes, you do. And what are you going to do about it? And when I say he went through this metamorphosis, because suddenly his mom was sick, mm-hmm. and he had to go up to the Bay Area to help her, visit with her. And watching my mom die and what I went through, and then slowly watching his mom slip away, and taking care of his father, who was in the hospital during the same time period. changed everything. He suddenly had empathy, because men are just not born with it. They have to develop it through circumstance, quite frankly.
You agree with that?
Oh my God, so true.
What does the producer have to say about that?
Women are just, we are born with natural maternity instincts. Some are not, but the majority are.
Yeah.
And empathy is something that comes to us much easier than it does for a lot of men. And I understand that, having watched so many men try to navigate through understanding. Like if something happened, if I knock this over, I'd be like, oh my God, sorry. Yeah. Most women would do that. Most people are like, your paper. They don't see it from our perspective.
Yeah.
And he had a really hard time with that. So this was the first time him experiencing something so deep that made him question his sobriety, made him question, his authority, made him question his confidence this is his mom. Mm-hmm. He's the oldest son. Like, it was really hard for him. So he found empathy. And in that empathy, he found love and he found spirituality, because suddenly he had a reason to pray. And then it was 1 year later on Thanksgiving, he said, will you go to church with me?
Oh, wow.
I had never heard those words from my husband before.
And he wanted to join your church.
Specifically. And well, not even really, because I went to an African Methodist Episcopal church, which was very loud. The pastor's going to yell at you.
The one here in Irvine?
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's just a different experience.
Yeah.
But we live very close to Saddleback Church in Lake Forest. Yeah. And so he wanted to go there, but it was the words of asking me to go. He had never asked me to go to church. So
you
before.
went there with him, even though you were used to going to AME.
Absolutely.
Oh,
absolutely.
okay.
And actually, I had stopped going to church for quite a few years because I was going through issues of my own with just church in general. I think every good Christian should question if this is right for them, especially if you've grown up in church. You've grown up in I get a lot of abuse happen to me in church, in being in a Catholic school, and all kinds of issues. And for me, I was like, I'm good. I got Reiki now. I got spirituality. I'm fine. Mm-hmm. So he was the reason I even go to church today. We're doing a Bible study right now, and this is the first time in our existence that he's done Bible study with me. My husband, my daughter, my 10-year-old just got baptized about 6 months ago because she wanted to. And to see our family connected in this way spiritually, and my husband watching him go through his walk with Christianity, has been such a beautiful thing for us. And so, yeah.
So in talking to you, Tahera, you're a very spiritual person. I mean, you talk to God, so I think that's pretty cool. Yeah. I've had a few friends that have had communications with God, and but I'm curious, do you think that we're the only people in the universe, the only life forms in the universe? Does God have other planets that are part of the realm?
I love that song, You're So Vain. You probably think this song is about you, don't you? Don't you?
Yeah.
And that is humanity.
Yeah.
And especially in this country where it is truly all about us in our minds. Mm-hmm. I was watching something the other day that said 95% of the world makes less than $35,000 a year. And living here in Orange County, you can't survive on less than $150,000 a year.
I was curious what that number was going to be for you.
Girl, literally. And,
as a one person or as a family?
Literally. Yeah. And that's the point, is we are
Mm.
living a life of privilege, no matter what our bills are, no matter what our issues are, no matter how, the fact that I have to pay a membership to get into Costco. It is a privilege. And looking at things from that perspective and even thinking about it from that perspective helps you to understand how small and minute your issues are. I mean, think about the people who just lost their homes in this fire, lost everything.
That's right.
Literally.
And a lot of them were in your community,
literally,
in Altadena,
absolutely.
Right?
And so no matter what my problems have been this year in 2025, I'm here, I am blessed, I am happy. And so I would believe that God, in his infinite wisdom, has shielded us from the things that we think we want to know, but that may be too grand for us to conceptualize, because we're still trying to get the basics here on earth. The basics of being kind, the basics of love, the basics of just being present for your other man, your we treat our dogs better than we treat people. It's beyond my recollection.
I think so too. Do you have a dog?
Yes, I do. And we love him.
Yeah.
But I love my kids more, and I love my husband more, and I love, you know what I mean? For me, I think that if God were to bring a being down here that was from any other space, we would take advantage of it. We'd want to kill it to study it. We would not protect it. We don't protect our own water. Most people in the world, 90% of the world, their water comes out brown. And when I say come out, meaning you get it from a pond. It doesn't come from a source like a pipe. Those are things that are still being developed in places around the world. But we cannot think about the world because our TikTok was down for 12 hours. We're not thinking beyond it. So why would God allow us the responsibility of more knowledge when we're using 10% of our brains right now? So for me, if God gives me any level of responsibility, when he gives me any level of blessing, it is my job, my duty to take very good care of it. So for example, I am so happy to be here today. It is such a privilege to talk with you, knowing that you've allowed me to share your space and you've got a story of your own that I know is so dynamic, that has touched and inspired so many people, but it is rooted in pain that you have found a way to manage and love other people with and give other people space to work out that situation. That is not normal.
Well, you're doing the same thing.
Amen. And so thank God that he's allowed our souls to connect in order to have this very powerful conversation about kindness, about empathy, about love and connectivity, because the average person doesn't really have that. And the connections that they have are highly superficial and not rooted in spirituality or rooted in something deeper than what can you give me? What can I get out of you?
Yeah.
And so when you have a space or a mindset to love and to help and to heal and to serve, the goal, I would think, would be to protect that person at all costs. But in this society, we demonize and we damn and we hurt those type of people. Think of every prophet that has ever existed from every religious background. They have all been demonized and hurt and been pushed aside or killed because of their desire to heal and to help. Think about our algorithms. They are designed to push negative content out far greater than they are the positive content, because that attracts money at the end of the day, right? So no, I don't believe God is ready for us to learn more about what he has out there until we can prove ourselves to have the desire to know more than what we are juggling right now.
So you think that there is a possibility that there could be life outside of this planet, but
Absolutely.
we're too primitive.
We're not ready. We're not ready.
God knows that we're too primitive.
Think about it. Think about the woolly mammoth. We were just trying to manage our lives with the dinosaurs that we came across once we got to this planet. And we killed them off and killed off so much of our own land and, and again, dirtied our own water, hurt our ecosystems. We're trying to drill apparently in Antarctica now because profit over people, over the planet, over climate change, over everything that is actually important in this world, because there are billionaires to feed. I mean, that's just the truth.
Yeah.
It's not. So for me, it's more of how can I counteract those realities that we are all living in, knowing I'm one person. And I had a pastor who was so cute as to describe what he called the grunion ministry. And grunions are a type of fish, and they're on the beach, and oftentimes they come ashore and they don't know how to get back to the water. So many of them die. And there was a man walking the beach one day, and he had a bucket full of water, and he would pick up one grunion at a time, put him in the water so that he can throw them back into the ocean. And somebody was like, why are you doing that? They're all going to die anyhow. He's like, I saved that one, and I saved that one. And while you can't save them all, every cause can't be yours. You have to do what you can do with your capacity, what you are perfect for and your purpose to help someone do something.
Yeah. It sounds like your kids are giving back. You've got a daughter that is a behavioral therapist, right?
Yes.
And she works with autistic children.
Yep.
And you have a son that's a musician.
Yeah.
Right?
They've all got a little piece of me. No
Yeah.
matter how much they don't listen to me in certain aspects, they really are listening. And
I think kids do listen.
They do. And they hear it, and the good, the bad, the indifferent, and hopefully decide what they want to pick up and what they want to put down. They're not going to do everything I did. I'm a little crazy. But hopefully the things that make me a great person, they're like, I want to do that. And they really are. They do see me and they hear me. And even sometimes one of my daughters, she's such a great little counselor. and I try not to parentify my kids, even though they're grown. I'm like, I don't want you to ever feel my pain. But sometimes I will talk to them and they'll like, Mom, you know, you're such a great person and you need to just give yourself some credit. Don't be so hard on yourself. I'm like, I think I needed to hear that. And I'm grateful to get back what I've given so many times in counseling sessions that I've had with them.
Wow,
so they do hear us.
That's so interesting.
Full circle.
Yeah. Wow. So much to talk about. We didn't get to talk very much about your product line, but it probably speaks for itself because
it does. I can give you a quick blurb about it. So
sure.
Yeah. Amour Propre, it means self-love in
Yeah.
French. And so my goal was to create a movement, not just a product, but a movement of self-love and self-care for people who wanted to have organic and natural products that would heal the everyday skin problems that most of us face, like echinacea, Lord Jesus, eczema, rosacea, itching, any dry skin issues, dermatitis or hyperpigmentation, just dry skin in general. And so I created skincare line that includes facial care, body lotion. We do handmade bar soaps. I do a yoni line because I'm all about the ladies and making sure we have feminine healthcare. Yes,
I love it.
And I also make candles and make hair products.
So do you make it yourself?
Yes, ma'am.
All
Every
of this
single
is made
product.
yourself?
Yes, I've made over 20,000 products.
You
in the last 5
personally
years.
do this?
Yeah.
Like, do you have a lab in your house?
I do. I told you I'm a crazy person. Only crazy person would
Can
make.
I come see it?
Absolutely, you can.
Really?
Absolutely, you can.
Oh my God! Field trip. PeppTalks is going on a field trip.
Well, I brought all these products, and so these are all yours.
Oh
I want to make sure that you.
No, that's way too
you have
much.
to try them. You
No,
have to try them all.
I mean, I would love to.
Yes,
They look interesting.
Yeah, they are. And they're all handmade, organic, natural. They all have great purpose. Again, being a mad scientist, I wanted to make sure that they all had purposeful ingredients that would heal skin and not harm it. And so I've had comments. I have thousands of reviews on Etsy and my website, and we're on Amazon as well. And people are like, my friend has cancer or they have diabetes and their skin was really, really dry and your products healed them.
Oh my God.
And so while I can't make that claim, I let my reviews speak for themselves because people have just been so kind and very honest. I get reviews where people are like, I didn't like this. I didn't have enough scent. I'm like, well, it's essential oils. So sometimes it's not going to give you the biggest fragrance that you want, but it is healing. It's aromatherapeutic. Like I'm all about being healthy and nutritious.
I love that. I'm going to hit you up to create a gift basket for Radiant Healthcare to sell at their auction.
Yes.
I think that would just be so fantastic if you could do that. I love that.
Yeah. And I love doing great things like that.
I figured you would. Mm-hmm. I figured you would. That's so nice. And they'll be so appreciative. John will thank you personally to your friend. So that's so nice. Yeah. Thank you so much for bringing all of these wonderful things for me to look at. I mean, this book, How to Deal with Your Baby Daddy.
Your baby daddy girl.
Is this good for all women, African American women, better?
All women.
Anybody?
It's literally
universal information.
Universal information. And also, because I'm a comedian, I used to do stand-up comedy for a while.
What?
She's done everything. But there's a lot of jokes in there because sometimes you have to laugh at your pain. But I wrote it from my perspective. Obviously, being a Black woman, my experiences came from that.
I can't even tell you how many times my best friend has said this to me. And you say this on page 68, close to my favorite number, 69.
There you go. You
write here, let it go. The first step to letting anything go is, you guessed it, let it go.
Literally.
Let it, my best friend tells me that all the time, that I just need to let it go.
Yes.
Because, the problem is for people that don't let it go is that we die a slow death of outrage fatigue.
Yes. Chapter 5 is called Let It Go to Voicemail. Don't answer that phone.
This is some brilliant advice here, which you don't even need a best friend.
No.
If you have this book.
That's right. That's right.
Tahera's got you covered.
I got you.
She got us covered. It's a pleasure to meet you.
I'm
so thrilled that you came to the event that we had, the Blaze It Forward event.
Yes.
And I hope to see you at more things because you've got a big personality, a lot of magnetism. I can see why people are clamoring to harass and bother you all the time. But I'm going to see more of you. I have a feeling you're gonna be at the next inclusive Seder.
That's right. Whatever you got going on, I'm here for it. I see your vision, and I love connecting with people with similar missions, and just continue to be kind, continue to love,
because we got to make this world better.
Yeah, that's right.
For your kids, for your biracial child, for your African American children, for my Jewish kids. Yeah, we got to do something together. We got to do something because not getting along with each other has not solved problems.
No,
it makes it worse.
That's right.
Yeah. How do you feel about the Proud Boys today? I heard that they all get another chance.
Yeah, it's literally insane, and we can talk for another hour.
maybe the Proud Boys will do better this time around. Maybe they'll find a way to not harm other people.
That's my prayer.
Maybe.
That's my prayer.
I hope that they will.
We're going to manifest that.
Yeah.
And pray that people are not emboldened to do more, because typically bad behavior that is rewarded gets repeated.
And isn't like pride a vice?
It is. One of the
I don't know if that's something we should be excited about.
Right.
When someone says that they're proud.
Right. Humility goes a long way.
Right?
But again, it's one of those learned behaviors. And if you have not actualized, you've not self-actualized, if you've not developed yourself emotionally, you're emotionally inept, and no one's ever corrected you. This is why I do talk about white privilege, because and white fragility in general, it is an issue that's persevered through society as a result of a lack of accountability. And if we continue to erase our history, the histories that have shown that throughout American society, it has been an issue for people to not see the fact that they have benefited from not seeing other races, other cultures, other histories as running simultaneously along with American history.
Well, it's not my fault, I don't feel, because I was raised with the same his story that everybody else was. Like Columbus Day was supposed to be a celebration of two bigots from Spain.
Right.
But they didn't explain that to us that way.
Right. Yeah.
So, and here we are today, and we're still probably teaching kids that same nonsense.
Absolutely.
But that's the story of America, and we want to have a nice, clean package of America.
And that's why the voices of today are so important, because we don't have to rewrite history. There's too many of us with knowledge that we're actually able to share throughout the world. Yeah. So we can't get weary in doing good. We have to continue to push. We have to continue to tell the truth about what is and what has been, so that we don't repeat the same mistakes of the future, just because certain things are being repelled right now that unfortunately are going to hurt a lot of people over the next 4 years, doesn't mean that we have to continue this. So this is a huge setback, but it is a setup for something more to come in the future, because we don't want to experience this lack of humanity that we're experiencing right now.
I agree with you. I mean, when we talk about like it being a huge step back, I saw things these last 4 years, like at my daughter's college campus. She was threatened. She was frightened by people that were anti-Semitic. Yeah. So there was a lot of, anti-Semitism, which I see as a form of racism.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And it wasn't stopped, and it took a long time for people to even understand what was going on at these schools. And so I don't know if that's going to stop, but I'd like to see everybody care about racism. Yeah.
From all perspectives.
Exactly.
The point is,
both sides have to care. It can't just be one side caring about one group of people. It has to be all of us caring about all people.
And that's the importance of perspective. Yeah. Many perspectives can exist at the same time.
That's
Many
right.
truths can
we
exist
have to
at the
be
same
able
time.
to hold both things in our hands at the same time,
I always say there's like, if you're looking at a picture of an apple and you see the apple from the north and I see it from the east and someone else sees it from the west and the south, you're seeing it from different light frames, and you'll say that apple is red. I'm like, well, it's yellow, but the light's shining on my perspective of it, right?
What it is,
all things can be true. So let's just honor that. That's the way I feel about religion. That's the way I feel about love. That's the way I feel about parenting.
What about rhetoric?
It's the reason I'm the way that I am. I literally was in debate class and learned how to argue things from multiple perspectives, which means I had to arm myself with all the knowledge, not just one perspective, so that whether I was for or against something I believed or not believed in, I understood the other side. That literally is, it's educational empathy. It's built into the way that I was educated, and then built into the way that I was raised, and then built into the issues that I experienced in life that made me the person that I am now.
It is all of those hard things that make us who we are.
Absolutely. So for me, the next 4 years, it doesn't have to suck. Okay?
It doesn't have to
suck.
Because maybe you'll like some things
There's
that come
some
out of it.
good things that can come out of it. There's some things that we're going to have to push through. But the reality is our perspective is going to be the difference between us feeling successful and feeling like we need rosé every day.
But you can't even have that at your house. You got a sober husband.
Oh, I can't. No, he can be sober all he wants to.
He has to watch.
Yeah. He can do whatever he
I love
wants.
that.
I do
love
whatever.
that.
So the Bible says to me, everything is permissible. Not everything is beneficial. So while what I can do, it may or may not benefit me, and being sober, I think, is great for your health. It's great for so many reasons. The occasional drink that I have makes me happy, and I'm okay with it. But do I abstain a lot? Yes, and that's okay too.
Moderation in all things.
It's everything,
Moderation.
right? So that's why I say all doctrines, there's room for all of it, as long as it helps you to be a better person.
Amen.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to say goodbye to Tahera so that she can get on with her day and go make more people have beautiful weeks
Amen
and
to that
days.
too.
Thank you.
I always want people to remember one thing: live in love. Being in the state of love is a mindset, and love is an action word. So just saying it is not enough. You want to be the love, and being kind is the greatest gift you can give to someone else, because reciprocity would suggest that it's going to come back to you. So treat yourself kindly so that you can treat others kindly too. And I love you with all that I am, and I thank you for the opportunity to share my gifts with you.
Thank you. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Hashtag Blaze It Forward is a campaign my family started in 2018 after our son Blaze was murdered. Hashtag Blaze It Forward provides the inspiration to thousands of people to repair the world with intentional acts of kindness. If you would like to learn more about Blaze and how you can make a difference, check out www.blazebernstein.org or join our Facebook group at hashtag Blaze It Forward. You can also check out my website for this podcast at www.PeppTalksWithJeanne.com. There you can follow along with my podcasting adventures and learn more about my fascinating guests and their passion projects. I would like to thank all of the volunteers who help make my philanthropic endeavors a reality. Today, that includes my producer, Eli Moskowitz, all of the volunteer crew members who join us, and a special thank you to my son, Jay Bernstein, for the original theme song you hear at the beginning and ending of each show. This has been another episode of Pep Talks with Jeannie. Until next time, keep on making this world a better place.